There's some interesting changes that just happened, which was kind of a surprise. So as I go through the information, Sage Acquisitions is no longer the asset management company for HUD. So all of my information has Sage Acquisitions on it, and it has Sage's contact. Like I only have Sage's contact information right now because this just happened on Tuesday. So Tuesday we got an email that said this is the new company that's taking over for Sage, and Al and I are trying to go through the process of getting all set up with those guys and figuring out how everything's going to work. But when I called them, they assured me that the process for purchasing is still going to be the same. So the bidding process is going to be the same. The contracts are going to be the same. All the rules and stuff that HUD has are going to be the same. So it really shouldn't affect our class at all. It's just going to affect the contacts. So normally where you would go to find forms and things like that would have been Sage's website, but now it'll be the new company's website. So whenever you see a HUD listing, that information will be in there. I always put that information in the MLS. So what I'm going to do is just basically go through how to purchase a HUD property from the beginning to the end. What to look for in the property when you're there, the different kind of quirky things that are really, they don't have to be issues if you know how to navigate. So I think that selling HUD homes is actually very easy. It's not any harder than selling any other property. It's just that they do things a little differently. And so when a lot of agents have issues, it's not because it's something that's really that hard. It's just that they don't understand because they're so used to doing it, you know, the way that they've always done it. So the first thing that I would like to do is, well, if you guys have any questions too, since it's a smaller group, just feel free to go ahead and ask me any questions throughout the class. Does that sound good? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a HUD listing. So this is just the MLS, and I'm just going to pull up a HUD listing. Hopefully, fingers crossed, my one that I had is still in here. Yep. So this one right here on State Street is a HUD listing. And if you look in the marketing remarks for any HUD property, you will see that it always says that it's a HUD home. So right here where it says the seller, it'll always say HUD. These are requirements that HUD makes us do. So it should always be the same. You'll always see in here the disclaimer that says that this is a HUD home sold as is without any guarantees. And it will give you this Sage Acquisitions will be the new company to go to get more information on the property. And then the HUD Home Store website where you place the bids will always be right here with the case number. So that case number is one way that you can look the property up in HUD Home Store if you want to. Usually the address works also. And if for some reason you can't find it in the HUD Home Store website, then that means it's probably been sold, because as soon as there's a contract on it, they take it down off of the website and you can no longer bid. So if you don't see it there, then chances are it has already been awarded a bid to somebody else. And a lot of times I have agents that run into that problem because they, for the first 10 days that any HUD property is on the market, they have only owner occupants can bid on it. So in order to qualify as an owner occupant, you have to have not bought a HUD property in the last 2 years as an owner occupant, and you have to promise to live in the property for at least the next 12 months as your primary residence. So those are the qualifications. And the first 15 days total that any HUD property goes on the market, it is owner occupant only. So investors are not allowed to bid on it. And if you go into the bidding, and you'll see they won't even let you change it to investor. So it's owner occupants only. In the first 10 days that it's on the market, they don't look at any of the bids. They wait until 10 days is up, and then they look at everything that came in and they pick the best offer. So that happens electronically. The offers are not chosen by a person. They're chosen by a computer that picks the best net to HUD. So they don't look at financing. They don't look at anything other than what the best offer is as far as, you know, the sale price and if you're asking for closing costs. So the biggest net to HUD is what they look at. And they award a bid after the 10 days if they get an offer that's good enough. And if they don't, then they'll leave it on the market for 5 more days as owner occupant. But at that point, it goes on a 24-hour basis. So now if you put a bid in on Monday, then on Tuesday, they look at the bid and they decide whether or not they want to accept it. If they still don't get any offers after that first 15 days, then they will open it up to investors. And they'll let anybody that wants to rent the property or flip the property or whatnot place a bid on it. And at this point, if you wanted to put your bid in under a business name, like an LLC or something like that with a tax ID number versus a social security number, then you can do that. So that's pretty much their rules for the initial bidding process. If you look down here under the agent only remarks, the FHA financing, this IE escrow and then 203K eligible, this is talking about whether or not you would be able to buy it FHA. And they make us put in the MLS that it is FHA eligible, but that doesn't mean that there's not any repairs that need to be done. Like normally you would see that and you would be like, oh, you know, it'll go FHA. So there must not be anything that really needs to be done to it to pass the appraisal. And that's not the case. It is FHA with escrow or with a 203K type of financing. So if you guys know what that is, or do you want me to kind of explain?
Well, I need to know what one and escrow mean. What are you putting in escrow? And 203K, that's the rehab loan.
Yep. So a 203K or a 203B is where they roll the money for the repairs into the loan. And so the way those work is the sale price is say 50,000 and you have 20,000 worth of repairs. So the house has to appraise for at least 70,000. And you have to have a contractor come out and do estimates on the repairs and let the bank know this is what's going to be done and this is how much it's going to cost. And as long as all the numbers match up, then you're good. So it has to appraise for the amount of the sale price plus all the repairs. And the repairs have to come within that allotment of money that you have. So depending on how much you're pre-approved for and all that kind of stuff. And that's what makes 203Ks a little bit tricky. But I had one that just closed on Michigan Avenue not too long ago, and it actually went pretty smoothly and they were able to get it done. So it takes a little longer, but you know, it's good for the buyers because now they have all the money for the repairs and they can just get it done and the house will be ready to move into and in good shape. So the FHA with escrow is more for properties that only have small repairs, because what that means is the buyer has to put 1.5 times whatever the repairs are into escrow with the title company at closing. And then as the work is done, the title company pays the contractor, whoever did the repairs. And then the appraiser goes back out and looks at the property and says, yes, it's done, everything's good. And they give it a green light and you're done. So if it's like maybe $1,500 to repair some plumbing, then instead of going through the whole 203K thing, you can just put 1.5 times that $1,500 into the escrow account. After you close, they come do the work, and then the appraiser goes out and signs off. And they'll give you back whatever money you didn't use. So if it, you put $3,000 in escrow and it only cost you $1,200, then you get the rest of the money back. So does that answer your questions, Carrie?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that FHA, when you see that in the MLS, it doesn't necessarily mean that the house can just be sold FHA regular financing. That's kind of tricky. But as long as you know that, then you know what to expect. So this down here, also in the agent remarks, I always put this because I like to remind people this is a little bit different than what you're normally used to. It says the EMD has to be certified funds and it's supposed to be made out to the closing agent. So whenever you put in a bid for HUD, it's going to ask you who you want to be your closing agent. We use Devon Title. The title company has to be registered with HUD. They have to be able to access HUD's Yardi system to upload documents and things like that. So I know that Chicago Title is and Devon Title is registered with them. And that when you put that in the bid, whatever title company you say that you're going to be using is who you want to make the earnest deposit out to. And it's got to be either a money order or it's got to be bank certified funds. So they can't write a personal check.
Is the EMD the same size as a standard purchase or buyer's agreement?
Yes. So if it's $50,000 or less, then the earnest deposit is $500. If it's $50,000 or more, then it's $1,000. And then it gets like real crazy. If it's above $250,000, it's like 2.5%. But I personally have never had a HUD foreclosure property that was $250,000. So that's, yeah, just the standard $50 for under 50,000 and $1,000 for over. And then that earnest deposit comes to the listing agent. So you make it out to title company and then you deliver it to whoever the listing agent is for the property. And they hold on to it until Sage or the HUD company tells them to forward it to the title company, and then they take it. Any questions so far? Because I'm done with the listing. I think that's pretty much all the information that's different than any regular listing, So next, I would like to show you guys how to navigate through the HUD Home Store website. And so here's HUD Home Store. And normally there's a ton of listings on here, but right now there's hardly any You can either click on the state. So like if you just click on the little Michigan, you'll see that my poor little house that's on North State Street is the only property in the whole state of Michigan that is available right now for bidding. Yeah, normally there's a ton of them, and you can search by county. You can put in that property case number right here if you want to. That'll take you straight to whatever property you're looking for. Or you can do just a basic search where you look for bedrooms, bathrooms, and all that kind of fun stuff. So once you find the property that you want, we'll use this one for an example, since it's the only one available. I'm glad it's still in there, because if it was gone right now, I don't know what I'd do. I'd have to show you houses in Wisconsin, I guess. So this part up at the top here tells you where the bidding is. So right now it's still in the owner occupant only period. So that'll tell you if it's open for investors. It'll say right here, anybody can bid on it. It's completely open. This is where it tells you the deadline. They have extended this deadline because it was the 3rd as of yesterday, and it looks like they've extended it out to the 6th. Maybe because it was off the market and I was not on HUD Home Store for a couple days when they were going through this transition. So that'll tell you if it's in the first 10-day period, then it'll give you the deadline right there. And if it's in the 24-hour where you can bid on it today and they'll look at the bids tomorrow, then it'll say that it's on a 24-hour basis. And this will say however many hours are left in the day, right? This is just the property information. Again, it talks about the FHA 203K eligible or with escrow. And then there's addendums in here. These are the same addendums that I put in the MLS. So the property condition report is in here and the listing disclosure are in here. And those are the two most important things that you want to look at. These are also in the MLS under the documents too. But the property condition report is the report that tells you what condition it was in when they got it. So the initial property management company that goes out and mows the lawn and shovels the driveway and takes care of the property, they do the clean out on it. They make sure that there's no safety issues or anything like that. They write up this report. So it's not done by a professional home inspector. They just do a very generalized, if the electricity is on, then they'll test the appliances and they'll test the electric system the best they can. If it's not on, then they'll hook it up to a generator and they'll try to test what they can with the generator on. If this right here where it says the functionality of the electrical and the wiring, if that says that no, it did not pass inspection, then they're not going to let you turn the electricity on. So that's kind of important because a lot of times people won't look at this and then, you know, they want to get utilities turned on for an appraisal or for a home inspection, and they can't because it didn't pass their safety inspection. They just look for safety issues. If they think that it's going to catch the house on fire, if you turn the electricity on, then they're not going to let you turn the electricity on. This one, they try to test the furnace the best they can, but most of the time there's no gas. So they can turn it on, see if the blower works, but they really can't check to see if it's going to work completely. And then this one, the water supply. So this one did not pass the water test. This again, most of the time the water's already been turned off when we get the property because the house has been sitting vacant for maybe a year, 6 months. By then the water's been shut off or the electricity's been shut off. So what they do is they bring out a air pressure tank and they hook air pressure up to the plumbing system, and they check for leaks in the plumbing or breaks. And if it doesn't hold 30 pounds of air pressure for 30 minutes, then they fail it. And they say, well, there's a leak somewhere, there's broken pipes. This one, and a lot of times they'll put in here what they suspect is the problem. So this one says that there's a leak at the bathroom faucet and meter connection. But unfortunately, you cannot turn the water on, which becomes a big problem when you have to get an appraisal, because almost all lenders require that all the utilities are turned on for the appraisal. So now you have the appraiser coming out and they're calling a check to see if the water and the electric and the gas are all on, and you're like, oh no, no, they're not. And a lot of times that makes the property default, the deal falls through because of that, because the lender will say, no, you cannot get the appraisal without the water being on, and HUD says, no, you can't turn the water on. And so it just falls apart. So I like to make sure people look at that ahead of time, so that you know, and this could be one of those areas where you could put money in escrow to fix it if you needed to. If it wasn't that big of a repair and you have enough cash that you can do that. But it just depends. And a lot of times I refer people to Mike Mancurian at Marshall Credit Union, or Kellogg Credit Union also will do the appraisal without having the water turned on for you.
Okay, couple questions, one of which you answered at the letter statement. The first question was, with the 203, I think that's a limited number of lenders in our community that has that available. And Mike, I believe that credit union is one of them. Is that correct?
Honestly, I'm not sure if Mike has the 203K or not, but I know that Mike definitely has a portfolio conventional loan that they can do the repairs in their conventional loan. So Mike actually has kind of a special program at Marshall, which is why I like using them, because he's able to do a 5% conventional loan and put the repairs in there.
Okay, now I do know that Post has a 203, the Post Credit Union.
On your Honor, I think Honor bought out Post.
Okay, yeah, they did. They had one, right?
Yeah, and I know Kellogg has one too, because that's who just did my my one on Michigan Avenue that we closed, was through Kellogg's.
Okay, and the second question and the last question would be, are there any exceptions to the rule of getting the water on through HUD?
No.
Exceptions.
In the 5 years that I've been doing the HUD listings, I have never ever seen them make an exception for you to turn the water on. That's why it becomes a major issue, because the buyer's like, what do you mean? Why can't I turn the water on? I don't understand. That's so stupid. But it's their rule. And if the house is damaged because there's a broken pipe and the water's running in the basement, now they have a bigger issue than what they had, with just the foreclosure property. So yeah, they will absolutely, for no reason, let you turn the water on.
Thank you.
Sure. So let's go down. Water heater, again, they check it the best they can, but most of the time there's no water in it. So, all they can really do is just make sure that it turns on, and then they turn it right back off. And then the well and septic. So if you have a property that is got well and septic, that is the buyer's responsibility to get the well and septic inspection done. HUD does not pay for those. So that's something that's good to know before you place the bid, so that you're not all of a sudden saying, oh, it's $350 for a well and septic and you guys got to pay for that. If it's a cash deal, then a lot of times, they don't have to, but most lenders do want to see a well and septic inspection before they'll finance a house. And then the roof, all they do is look at it. They just look up there and see if it looks like it's obviously damaged or the shingles are in horrible shape and need to be replaced, or you can see that there's big, huge dips in it or something obvious, then they will report it. But other than that, they don't go up in the attic and check the rafters and, that kind of stuff. They just do like a visual. So that's the property condition report in a nutshell. It's kind of not a ton of information, and people ask a lot of times, well, do you know about this or do you know about that? And I don't know about that stuff. I'm sorry, all I know is what's in this property condition report. So the next one that you want to look at is the property listing disclosure. And this one is the report that the appraiser does. So especially when it comes to if you're trying to get financing for the house, or if you're trying to do FHA financing, the under noted property repairs, you're going to see this is what the appraiser is saying that you would probably have to escrow for in order for it to pass an FHA appraisal. So this house doesn't have a screen door on the front porch. Not a big deal, but for some reason he doesn't like the flooring in the laundry area. This is water supply connection had leaks, and so that's something that would have to be fixed. And if you have somebody that is FHA that is thinking about doing the escrow, this is a good place to get an idea of how much repairs they're going to have to pay for, or they're going to have to escrow for.
Could you use that same value of $10,000 for escrow? It says FHA minimum property requirement repairs is less than $10,000.
Yeah, so I've never had an issue with this, but it looks like, yeah, you could tell them that it's going to be at least less than 10,000, because if it's more than 10,000, then they won't let you do an escrow for it. Then you'd have to switch them to a 203K. At that point, you'd have to do a 203K or a 203B.
So that is also an indicator as to which direction you're going to go, be it that it's 203 or a escrow.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, this house isn't bad. It's just, you need to replace that front door. You need to fix the flooring, and you need to fix the plumbing that leak, in the faucet. So that's probably what, maybe $500 worth of repairs. So you'd have to escrow $750. That's not bad. But some of them, you guys have seen my HUD houses. Some of them are pretty scary. So that's really all that tells you. That's just, you're looking for repairs on this form. So the rest of these this is a broker bonus. If you do have a client that's doing a 203K or B, you get an extra $500 on top of your commission, because it's a more tedious kind of process. You got to go out there and meet contractors. You got more paperwork and stuff like that. So they give you a $500 bonus if you're doing a 203. That's it though. No other types of lending.
Okay.
This talks about,
Giving you that $500. Is that coming from your broker? Or is it coming from HUD?
It comes from HUD. It comes in the commission. All you have to do is fill out this form when you're doing your paperwork. And they give you an extra $500 for doing a 203K.
Thank you.
So this, I'm not sure why they even have this in here anymore, because we don't do mailing in Michigan. The lead-based paint addendum doesn't have any information on it because they don't know what the condition is. You know, they don't test for lead paint. So that's just a standard form that they put in all of them. And these are just little things that kind of help you through the process. So we'll go back to the property info. So let's say you want to put a bid, right? This is the fun part. We're going to place a bid on this property. So in order to place a bid, you guys know you have to be registered with HUD. You have to go through the process ahead of time of going into a HUD Home Store, and you just tell them that you're a new agent and you want to register. Right here up in the top there says register. They're going to ask you for your information, your broker's information, your license number. And I think that's about it. I've not done it in a really long time, so I don't remember, but it's not hard. I remember that it was just your basic information. And then once you're registered, you can go just down here to submit an offer. This is the first thing. They ask you for the NAID type. And the NAID type is always going to be selling broker. So you're the selling agent, selling broker. That's what you put in there for that. I'm going to go ahead and get this so that I can get into it. And I probably should have done this ahead of time, but you guys bear with me for just a second. So this is where I keep the Troxel NAID number right here. So all I have to do is cut and paste that. And then I copy that. And then you have to put the Troxel Realty NAID number here, which is a little confusing because they don't specify that it's Troxel's NAID and not your NAID, but that is what they're looking for, is the NAID for Troxel Realty. And then this is something new because they've never, or maybe, did I just close that too? Damn it. They do ask for your license. I do the same thing. I cut and paste my license number in there. All right. So then they do their verification and now you're in the system. So to place the bid, it's really very easy and it's kind of nice because you don't have to collect any earnest money. You don't have to have their pre-approval letter at this point. Although you do want to check to make sure they really have one or they really have the money. But if you trust the client, then you don't have to have it in your hands when you place the bid. You have 2 days after they accept your bid to get that information to them. So the main thing they're going to ask you for is the property purchase price. So, you know, we're going to offer them $70,000 for it. And then they're going to ask the kind of type of financing: cash, conventional, 203K, 203B with the repair escrow, or regular 203B, which I'm not even sure what that is. So we're going to say that we are applying for a conventional type financing. And then this part right here, a lot of people don't know this, I think, but HUD will pay closing costs. But you have to ask for the closing costs in the bid. If you don't ask for it in the bid, then they're not going to give you any closing costs. That includes the $400 fee to Devon Title, So normally you would split that between the seller and the buyer, but HUD doesn't pay that. So if you have a HUD property, then the buyer is going to be responsible for that whole $400. And any other closing fees that, you know, that they have from their lender or whatnot, they just won't pay them unless you put it in here. And if you put it in the bid, then they will pay it up to 3%. So we'll say that we want $200 in closing costs to cover our half of Devon Title's fees. Then for the commission, this calculates automatically. You can't change it. They're not, it won't let you change it. And the way that they do their commission, they have a 3% on anything that is $3,500 or more. And if it's under $3,500, then it's a flat $1,000 commission. So the tricky thing here is, and I've had this happen, but it doesn't happen very often. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes they'll list a property for $30,000 and it will sell for $40,000 or $50,000. And if that happens, they're still only paying you the $1,000 flat fee. Because with HUD, it goes based on the list price, not on the sale price. So if it's listed for under that $35,000 and you're getting that flat $1,000 fee and you sell it for $60,000 or $70,000, you're still only going to get $1,000. And they're not going to change it, you know? So just be aware of that. If you see that some like $1,000 in there, then you'll know that that's because it's a under $35,000 listing. Then down here, it's going to automatically calculate what HUD will get, their net. And that's what they look at, is their net. So your sale price, subtract the commission, subtract any closing costs that you ask for. And then this one is $65,600. If there's another bid that's $65,601, they will take the other bid. And that's just because it's all computerized. So even though your offer might be cash and the other offer is $203K, it doesn't matter because all the computer looks at is that net number. And whatever the highest net number is to HUD is the offer that they're going to accept. So that might help you a little bit when you're placing your bid, you know, when you talk to your clients and you're trying to figure out, because, you know, they always go back and forth. Well, we don't want to pay too much, but we really want the property. So what should we do? You know, if you're asking for a ton of closing costs, and, you know, that's what they're going to look at is your net offer. And then this part down here, if you remember earlier, I told you that when you place your bid, if it's in that owner occupant period, it won't let you change this. And right now this property is in the owner occupant period. And so it will not let me change that. And what this means is when your buyer signs the contract, there is a clause in there that says that they are an owner occupant. And if they're lying, then they can be penalized. They can get fined if HUD finds out that they're not an owner occupant and that they lied. In this part, if the seller does not accept this offer, seller may hold the offer or may not hold the offer as a backup. So what this means is when HUD has 4 offers on a property, and I put in there that they may hold my offer as a backup, and they accepted somebody else's offer because it was $100 more than mine, then that deal falls apart and they couldn't get their financing, or they backed out after the home inspection and they canceled their bid. Then HUD will go to the second best bid. They'll automatically go to that backup bidding and they'll award you a bid. And it's kind of funny because sometimes it happens like a month after you put the bid in. So I've had agents that, you know, they're like, well, my client's already moved on. Obviously, it's been 3 weeks or it's been 4 weeks and they don't want it anymore. So they will go to all of the backup bidders that they have in there before they put it back on the market. So I always check that box. And if my client doesn't want it, after it's been too long and they've moved on, I can always just say, nope, my client's not interested anymore. We're not gonna move forward, and they'll go to the next backup bidder. And if they don't have any more backup bidders, then they will instruct me to put it back on the market. And then it will be open bidding on a 24-hour basis, and they just start all over again. Right?
So Robin, what is their process for notifying the backup bidders to let them know that a deal didn't go through and that they are the next person in line?
Email. Yep, they'll
Email?
email you.
Okay.
Yep. So that's why I say it's kind of funny, because you'll get an email out of the blue and it'll say, hey, guess what? You've been awarded the bid. And you'll be like,
Okay.
what? You know, but that just means that another offer fell through. And so.
Okay. And is there a time frame in the processing of that in response to that email?
Yes, you need to respond to that email within 2 days, I believe, because you
Okay.
have 2 days to go through and do the check sheet and upload the earnest deposit and the proof of funds.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. This part here is just asking if you are related to the person that's purchasing the property. If you're an employee of HUD or Fannie Mae or anything like that. And then this one asks if the person, like Carrie, if you're placing the bid, then this would say, you know, the purchaser has an ownership interest in the property. So I'm not allowed to place bids on my own properties. I'm not allowed to buy a HUD property, and nobody in our office is allowed to buy HUD properties for themselves.
Okay, does that include your family as well?
Yes, I believe so. Are any purchasers an employee, immediate family member, management official of affiliated entity to HUD Asset Management, field service, appraisers, brokers, anybody that's related to you is not allowed to buy HUD Homes. Because they think that it's going to be a conflict of interest. All right, so down here, this is all the information that you have to put in there for the buyer. You have to give them their social security number. You have to give them their name. And what I always tell people is to put down here what the name is on their driver's license, because whatever you put in this bid area is how they're going to draw up all the contracts and the deed and everything that has to do with the purchase of the property. So you want to make sure that their name is correct. If it's Thomas, then don't put Tom, you know, because then all the documents, everything's going to say Tom. And a lot of times the title company, I think, has issues with that because they want you to sign your full name, you know. Their address and their email address. They make you confirm the email address because that's how they send out all of the signatures now for documents and whatnot, is all emailed. They put phone number. I've never had them call a client. I'm not really sure why you have to put their phone number in here, but that's what they ask for. And then this part down here is where you put in the title company's information. And I believe this is like this for everybody. I'm not 100% sure, but as soon as you start typing in Devon Title, you should get this drop down, and our office is the one all the way at the bottom. And the same thing for these, like the escrow officer, they have Jenny, Debbie, Lucy, like everybody from Devon Title that's ever been put in here before is still in here. So you just can pick two of your favorite, you know, people over at Devon Title, and that's all done for you. If that's not in there, then you have to provide all of this information. So before you put in the bid, you'll want to make sure you have their phone number, their address, and the email for whoever you are gonna use at the title company. I'm not sure about Chicago Title because I honestly have never put, oh, yep, see Chicago Title's in there too. For me anyways, I don't know if it'll be the same for you guys though, unfortunately.
Okay, I do have another question now.
Sure.
Once you get started on making the bid process, are you time limited? Do you have-
Yes. Yes. And I was just gonna say that. You have 15 minutes. For some reason, and they just started doing that a couple years ago, but yeah, you've got 15 minutes to put in the bid and then it times out and you'd have to go in and start all over again.
And I can tell you as a new person, that's frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Hey, Quincy, so when you were doing your bid not too long ago, did that title company information, was that there for you?
Yep,
Or did you have to put it
dropped-
in?
Nope, it dropped down like you said it did.
It did drop down? Good, okay,
Yep,
so.
and then the calculations also for what you mentioned earlier, those also calculated and populated.
Mhm.
So yeah, that part was there, like you said. It just
Mhm.
took some getting used to, and like I said, you just want to make sure you got all that information, whatever you got right in front of you, because that 15 minutes comes up fast.
Yeah, don't get distracted. Yep, but that's it. I mean, you know, once you've done it a couple times, honestly, you just know, like, you have to get their social security numbers. I think that's probably the biggest mistake that people make, is they don't think about that, because normally you don't need that information when you're writing an offer, right? So you make sure you get their social security numbers and their addresses, their full names, their email address, make sure that's correct, because I tell you, if you put the wrong email address in there, when it goes out to get e-signed, it is a disaster. And this is just like any other government system. When it works right, it works great. And when something goes wrong, then it just turns into a mess. And it's very hard to fix things once they're not, you know, once they get to that point. So they're going to make you confirm the email address again after you win the bid. And just, you know, make sure your clients give you the right email address. I've had clients give me the wrong email address and we had to try and fix it afterwards. And it took like a week just to be able to get the right email address, because once they sent it out, then the contract is out there and it's doing its thing and they can't just take it back, you know? So it's a process if you have to fix stuff. If you have to change their name, there is an addendum that you can do that with. That's not very hard. Once the contract is all signed and everything's done, there's a way that you can change their financing with an addendum. You can change their name. You can change, like, if they want to add somebody to the contract, you know, their kid or something like that. You can do that after the contract signed.
Now, these addendums that you refer to, are they addendums created by HUD? Or
Yes.
are standard addendums that we can go through?
No. So nothing that we use in our normal day-to-day business that we get from our zip forms or you know, dot loop, none of those apply to HUD. They have all their own forms. They have their own cancellation. They have their own extensions. They have their own addendums. So you won't use any of those forms. And all the forms that you'll need for HUD are in Sage's website. So now it'll be the new company's website, but that's where you find them. So that's pretty much how you place the bid. Once you get all this information in there, you're just going to click continue. And then it's going to give you a list of everything again. Is this all correct? It'll say on there in big red letters, your bid has not been placed yet until you confirm it. And you just have to read through, and at the bottom it says confirm. And then it will send you a confirmation form, you know, will pop up on there with all the information that you put in, and it'll have a confirmation number. So what I always do is I just save that. Like I click on print, and I either print it out or I print it to a PDF and save it on my computer, because that number that they give you for the confirmation is very handy if you need it later on to go back into your bid and change something, which you can do. If you have a client that calls you and says, hey, you know what, I want to change my bid from 75 to 85. Then you can go back into the system and you can pull up that bid with the confirmation number that you have, and you can change it. So is there any other questions on that whole putting the bid in process? Let me look and see if I'm missing anything. I have all these documents too. I have a sample of them that I'm going to give to Amanda so that she can email them to everybody that was in the class today. So you'll have a sample of, you know, like the listing, and a sample of the property condition reports and all that stuff. Wow, we already blew through an hour, guys. Do you guys want to take 5 minutes, or do you want to keep going?
Are you suggesting that if we continue to go, there's a possibility it won't be 2 hours?
Yeah, it'll be an hour and, well, it could be an hour and 20 minutes, but I still have to go through some other stuff, so.
It needs to be an hour and 40 minutes in order to get your 2 hours.
Hour and
Keep
40.
on going, you'll get out 20 minutes early.
Yep, 20 minutes. But, yep.
I think.
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right, let's keep going. So now your bid's accepted, and they send you an email that says, yay, congratulations, you won the bid. That is when you need to call your client and say, okay, we've got 2 days, 2 business days to upload their earnest deposit and their either proof of funds or pre-approval letter. So just like with any other regular deal, if they're paying cash, they need to have a bank statement that shows the money that is in their account. And you can black out the account numbers. You don't have to give HUD the account numbers, but it's got to be on bank, you know, a bank statement with the bank's name and that, you know, all the real information. I have had them accept a letter from the bank. I've had people go and get a letter from the bank manager that says, you know, this person has this much cash in their account, or they have enough money to buy the property, blah, blah, blah. And they have accepted that as long as it's on bank letterhead and it's signed by a bank manager or teller. I'm not 100% sure if the new company will or will not. That is something that we will have to find out in the future, because HUD's rule is that they're not supposed to. They're supposed to get only a bank statement. So we'll see.
Okay. So
And then a regular pre-approval letter works just fine if they're getting their financing through a bank or a credit union.
okay. So may I ask a question?
Yep.
Okay. So if a person is using something other than a banking institution, such as his or her 401k. Will that be acceptable?
Uh-huh, yep, so if they're doing that, then, so they're taking the cash out of their 401k and they're buying it with cash, then that's what you put down there in the bid, is that it's gonna be cash. And when you upload the proof of funds, you're gonna upload their 401k. And you're gonna show that they have enough money in their 401k to take out. And this is something that I've had happen quite often with financing also. Most of the time, the person who's got the bank account or the pre-approval letter is the person that has to be on the bid. So you can't buy it for your friend. You can't put the bid in Brenda's name and then show Quincy's proof of funds and just say, well, Quincy's buying it for Brenda and then Brenda's gonna pay him back. That's considered an investment property, so you can't do that. But the exception to that rule is if you're buying it for an immediate family member. So I've had tons and tons of dads and moms that have bought a HUD property for their kid. And that's perfectly acceptable. You can do that. You can buy it for an immediate, it has to be an immediate family member though.
Can you do that after 15 days? Because after 15 days, it goes to investors, correct?
Yeah, after 15 days, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, after 15 days, it doesn't matter. But when it's in that owner occupant period, they're looking to make sure that the person's name on the bid is the person that's going to be living in the property. So if it's a dad that's buying it for their daughter and both of the names are going to be on the bid, then there's a place on here where you can check. I think yeah. Right here where you're putting in their information. So you'd put the daughter's information in here. And then you'd put add another purchaser. It'll drop another thing down. And then right here, you can click on not living in the property. So then dad's goes down here and the person living there is going to go up here.
Okay.
Okay, in regards to your EMD, let's say that you showed proof of purchase from a banking institution and something happened throughout the course of time that this is taking place and the bank make a decision not to lend the money. Do you still get your EMD back as an expense?
Yep. So HUD gives you 15 days to do a home inspection. And you have an opportunity to back out and get your earnest deposit back if you find something wrong and you change your mind, due to the home inspection. And it's the same with lenders. If it doesn't appraise or if your financing falls through or anything like that, then you get your earnest deposit back. The only time that I have seen them not give the earnest deposit back was when it was an investor. And they're a little stricter on investors because they feel like an investor should know what they're getting into. So if a homeowner gets the home inspection and finds out the roof is bad, then they're going to give them the deposit back. But if it's an investor, and it says in the property condition report that the roof shingles are not good and need to be replaced. And then the investor goes back and says, well, I changed my mind because the roof really is in bad shape. Then they will keep their earnest deposit. The only time I've seen them do that though is when it's an investor and when there was something that was in the property condition report or something that they knew, was an issue before they put in the bid.
Thank you.
I'm trying to remember where I was at.
Well, adding another person. If a person's not going to live there, add that person right on the screen.
Okay. So we talked about home inspection. Like I said before, the water can't be turned on if it didn't pass the water test, the pressure test, and the electric won't be able to be turned on. So when you're getting your inspections done, the electric and the gas is allowed to be turned on for inspections and for the appraisal, but you have to go through their process to do it. HUD won't do it. They're not going to pay to have the utilities turned on. So the buyer has to pay to do that. In my experience, the consumers has never charged my clients for a deposit. And I believe that that's because they already have an account, you know, so most people have a consumer's account somewhere. So if they do charge you a deposit though, you would have to pay the deposit and then they'll charge you for whatever electricity you use. And the same with the gas company. Except the gas company, it's a little bit more tricky because if it's like Semco, for instance, they have to be able to light at least one pilot light in the house. So if there's no utilities other than the furnace, and you want to test the furnace, then the furnace has to be at least in good enough condition that they can turn the pilot light on. Because I have seen Semco say, no, we're not going to turn the pilot light on because that furnace doesn't look safe. So just be aware, you know, but you can get those turned on. You have to go into, again, the Sage website and you request permission from the BLM, is the property management company, the ones that do that initial property condition report. So they're responsible for monitoring that and making sure that this property didn't pass the water test. So you have to request to turn the water on and they're going to say yes or no based on the property condition report. So it's not, I mean, it's kind of a pain, but it's not that big of a deal. You just go in there, you fill out the form. They give you 4 days to have the electric or the gas turned on for you to do your inspections. And then if you need to have it turned back on for the appraisal, then you just go and do it again. And they let you turn it back on for the appraisal. There was something that I was thinking of just now with that. Oh, you have to turn it back off after the 4 days. And I forgot what else I was going to say about that. It seems like there was something else. Okay, well, we'll move on. Yes, go on. So I'm also going to send you guys a copy of a contract because they changed things. When you used to have to send it overnight, the benefit I thought to that was that you actually sit down with your client, you go through the whole contract, you guys sign it together and they understand everything. Because, oh, that's what I was going to say. If the house is winterized and they want to get the water turned on and it did pass the pressure test, so Sage says, yes, you can turn the water on, no problem. Your client has to pay for it to be unwinterized, and then they have to pay for it to be re-winterized after they're done with inspections. So that's another cost to the buyer if they choose to do that.
So that would be an exception to your getting the water turned on if it's winterized?
Yeah, so if the house is winterized, then, and they say you can turn the water on because it passed the pressure test and we didn't find any leaks, you still have to pay to get it unwinterized because they're all winterized. And when they finish the transaction and the property closes, they're going to get the house winterized. So they're not going to be able to go in and just turn the water on. They have to unwinterize it. before. I had a guy, and it says that in the contract. So that's one of the things that is nice about going through the contract with them ahead of time, because it makes you remember things like that you can tell them. I had a guy one time that called me up after, and he kept insisting that he knew what he was doing. It was a condo. And I know what I'm doing. I've bought HUD properties before, and I tried to tell him stuff, but he wouldn't listen to me. And then after it was all over, he called me up and he's like, they didn't unwinterize the house. And I'm like, no, I know they don't do that. And he's argued with me forever. He's like, yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'm like, no, they don't. They don't unwinterize it for you. I'm sorry. But that was a fun one. So
Generally, how much,
hmm?
Robin, generally, how much is it to unwinterize a house?
About $150 to $200 if you hire a plumber. Yeah, I think the guy that Wilbur's Plumbing, I want to say I've had him do them before, and it was about $150.
Okay.
And then 150 to re-winterize it, because you have to put it back the way you got before, you know.
Okay.
So $300 approximately to do that process.
For the whole process?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm gonna have you guys, or Amanda, send you a sample contract. Because now, since they changed everything and you have e-signatures, you don't ever, you don't necessarily sit down with the client and sign it anymore. After you send them all of the pre-approval letter and you verify the information on the checklist and upload your documents and all that stuff, they generate the contract, and they'll email you and say, here's the contract. We need you to look it over and verify again that all the information is correct. And once you do that, they send it automatically to the broker first. So the broker signs, and then they send it to the client. The client signs, and then they send it to the title company, and the title company signs. And then it's done. They send you a copy of it, and everybody's under contract. So I do like to either meet with the client when you're going through it, when you get that initial email that says, here's the contract, please read over it and verify. You could sit down with the client then and go through it. Because there's a lot of stuff in there that they're gonna have to, like the as is, they're not gonna do any repairs. They're not going to change the price. If you find out that there's a repair that needs to be done, you can't go back and ask them to lower the sale price. They won't do that. They'll just cancel the contract. That winterizing issue, the whole thing that has to do with owner occupants, because they're going to be signing that, saying that they are going to live in the property for at least a year. You know, I think that it's good to go through it with them and just make sure that they know all these things beforehand. So she'll send you that sample contract. What have I missed?
Now, if a person purchased a home and got to do it, so let's say they went through the whole process, they got it, their intent was to live into it for over a year in the whole 9 yards. They passed away. And that home is encouched in its will to go to a brother. They have no continued requirement for that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've never had that happen, Carrie, but I would assume that if the person that bought the property passed away, that they would not hold them to that. You know, they can't take the property back, if that's what you mean. Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, they wouldn't take the property back. It would just go through probate or go to, you know, whoever they willed it to.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do we talk about the checklist? The emails that you're going to get once you win the bid? you'll get an email, after you win the bid, you're gonna have a checklist that you have to go and verify their information. That's when, I told you that they'll ask you again to make sure that the web or the email address is right and the names are all correct. And when you go through and verify the checklist, you're just looking to make sure that all the information's good, and you are gonna upload at that time the copy of the earnest deposit and the proof of funds. And after you do that, then they're gonna send you another email that says, we received all your information and we're gonna review it. We'll let you know if we have any issues. If the check's not certified funds, they'll say we need a new check. If the bank statement is more than 30 days old, they're gonna tell you they want another bank statement. If the pre-approval letter is out of date, anything like that, you know, they're gonna ask for you to fix it, and they will give you 24 hours, I believe, 24 or 48 hours to fix it, to re-upload whatever it is that they want you to re-upload.
Okay, just for clarification for me. Once you start the process, you submitted your request for purchase. They accept the request for purchase. What period of time does it take between that moment?
I couldn't hear you, Carrie. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, you've gone through the process of submitting your request.
Mhm.
purchase.
And they've accepted it,
They've
right?
accepted it and told you that they've accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
From that point forward, what time frame are we looking at before close?
Well, it depends on your financing. If it's cash, then you could close in 3 weeks. Because as soon as Devon Title is done with their title search and all that, then you can close. If it's financing, then obviously you have to wait for an appraisal and you have to, you know, have them get all their documents to the lender and that stuff. So those, they give you 30 days whenever you write an offer that is cash, you put in a cash bid, they automatically give you 30 days on your contract to close that. If it's finance, then they give you 45 days. And if it's a 203K, then they give you like 3 months. I think they give you 90 days, yeah, to close it.
Okay, that's the information I actually needed.
Mm-hmm.
So for
And
3K is about 90 days. You have
mm-hmm.
90
Yep.
days.
And it's the same as a regular contract. Once everybody is signed and the contract is ratified, that's when your time starts. That's when your 15 days starts for home inspections. That's when your time starts for your closing and all that.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
good.
So you're past all, you've got that done. The contract is signed. You're getting home inspections, you're turning on utilities. You've got everything to your lender. They're working on the appraisal. Now you got to clear to close, or the titles come back and your cash buyer is ready to close. All you have to do is call the title company to schedule the closing. And I know that the title companies all know this, but HUD requires 5 days. So if you call them on Monday, they're not going to let you close until the following Monday, because they require 5 days for us to, the title company has to upload all the documents in Yardi for them to approve. And I have to do an inspection, a ready to close inspection, where I go and make sure the property's in the same condition that it was when we listed it. And, you know, there's no vandalism, there's no issues. So I have to do that inspection. And then Sage will sign all the documents, approve everything, approve the final figures. They sign the deed. and they send all that stuff back to the title company. And then when you guys go to close, I won't be there. So it's a little bit different. You are supposed to, hi. Because the property has HUD keys, and the HUD keys are used over multiple properties, they don't let us give you a key. So I'm not going to be coming to closing with the key and all that stuff to give to you, to give to the new buyers, and they're all happy. After you close, you guys are supposed to go to the property with the buyers. You unlock it for them, and then they have to change the locks. Carrie. I know, but they don't want the HUD keys out there, because if you have one, then you can get into any HUD house, you know, like that you want to break into and steal stuff from. So I guess the biggest thing to remember there is just that you have to give 5 days. A lot of times people get frustrated because they're cash buyers and the titles come back and they want to close tomorrow, and they don't understand how come they can't just schedule it and close tomorrow. But it really is, Sage has to go through their process. And
So can you include that change the lock fee in your closing?
what do you mean included in the closing?
Or cover that cost for the buyer? Because they're gonna have to incorporate that, right?
Well, they're gonna have to buy a new handle for the door, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
most people buy new locks anyways, right? I don't,
Yeah, that's true.
especially for
That's
a
true.
foreclosure property. I mean, you don't know who's got keys to that. And if it's a HUD
Right.
property, just tell them, well, you know, there's probably 6 or 7 people out there that have keys to the house.
Right.
So they're gonna want to change the locks. I mean, it's more just an inconvenience for the agent,
Yeah.
because normally you would leave the closing and you go back to your office and you're done. But with the HUD properties, you have to go to the property and open it up for them. And I leave my lockbox on there until after you guys go and let them in. And then usually I just ask you to leave my lockbox on the front porch or something, and I go by and pick it up after at some point. So do you guys have any questions? Because we still have like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes.
Well, we can take that 5 minutes break that you asked us.
Yeah, I don't, I'm looking through. I mean, I guess I should slow it down a little bit. And
Now, this is obviously recorded. Is there an option for us to get a recording of this or not? Because
What,
we have
Carrie?
very valuable information in there.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of information. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you got to remember, but it's really not any harder than selling any other property, as long as you know, if you know that you can't turn the water on and you tell them that up front, then they're not pissed off when they find out that they can't get their appraisal, and usually, like, if you win a bid, Carrie, for one of my HUD properties, I get an email the same time that you get an email that says you were awarded the bid. And so they send me one that says, hey, this is the person who was awarded the bid. So I always call the agent and, say, hey, congratulations. Whatever questions you have, you can call me anytime. And then I ask them, what kind of financing is it and who's your lender? Because that's really the most important thing. And if I know the water can't be turned on and they tell me that they're financed through PNC Bank, then I'm gonna say right then and there, okay, PNC Bank is not gonna let you do the appraisal without having the water turned on. So either you guys need to switch lenders and go call Mike at Marshall Credit Union and do the whole transaction through them, or you're gonna have to switch to a 203K, or you're gonna have to put money in escrow for the plumbing repairs. And that will usually take care of the problem. But, you know, if they don't have a lot of extra cash and they can't put money into escrow, then their only option would be 203K or to switch lenders, which I've done many, many times. And you can just fill out an addendum that says we're switching lenders, we're switching financing from FHA to conventional or whatever, or from FHA to 203K.
Okay, now these required repairs that has to be made. What time frame again was it that they had to be made within?
Usually it's 90 days after closing. So that's something that your lender is gonna, because they're kind of in control of that. They're the ones that are gonna let you know how much money you need to escrow, or you know, they're gonna let you know this is when we need the repairs done, and then we're sending the appraiser back out and the appraiser will okay the repairs. So HUD only has a 90-day for the 203K. If it takes more than 90 days, you can file for an extension. Just like all the other forms, there's a special form that they have that you fill out, and you have to put on there why you're requesting an extension. And you just say it's lender delays or whatever. And the first one, they don't charge you for, but if you continue to extend it, then they start to put a $125 fee on there for every extension that you file. So, you know, they don't want you to dilly-dally and take too long to get it closed.
So even though the bank is the one that's sending out the appraiser again, it's ultimately up to HUD to accept that those things have been completed. Is that correct?
No, HUD doesn't care.
Oh,
It's the lender that wants to make sure they're done. Yeah, HUD could care less. You're buying the house as is. They're not going to do anything to it. So it's just the lenders that have the issue with the stuff.
okay. So basically the lender is saying that they're going to force you to request an extension through HUD for those.
Yeah, HUD, well, if you can't close in that 90 days, then you just request an extension like you would for any other contract. You know, if it goes past the contract date, then you request an extension, but HUD will start to charge you if you go past the first extension. So they'll let you go out 15 days at a time.
Mhm.
If you're supposed to close on the 1st, then they'll let you do an extension until the 15th. That first one will be for free. And then if you have to extend it again, then they're going to charge you $125.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is through one of their request forms. It's not through an addendum.
Yeah.
It's through
Nope.
one of the request forms.
Yeah, it's one of their forms, and they're gonna request that when you submit the form, you also submit a letter from the lender stating that they're still pre-approved.
Okay.
So that HUD knows that there wasn't any change in their financing. It's not like the financing fell through. You're still pre-approved and we're still moving forward. We just have this little issue because the appraisal's not back yet, you know, or whatever.
Okay.
So, I mean, most of the repairs are going to be the same as what a normal FHA would have an issue with, like peeling paint, or, you know, their HUD always makes sure that there's no safety issues. So there's not going to be issue with there are no handrails. There's always handrails. They might not be pretty. They might be just like a 2x4 that they put on the on the wall, but it's all the regular, you know, FHA kind of stuff that they're gonna look for. The roof, broken windows, excuse me, broken windows, you know, plumbing, electrical, furnace.
And all these things must be taken care of by contractors as opposed to homeowner type thing.
Yeah, usually the bank is gonna require that they're done by a contractor.
Relations.
Yeah, like if you do a 203K, then the bank definitely is gonna have contractors involved. If you do escrow, I'm not sure. That would probably be a question for the lender. If you're an escrow, and you want to do the repairs yourself, I'm not sure if they'd let you do that or not. Yeah. But if you just use like Kellogg Credit Union or Marshall Credit Union, then you don't have to worry about it.
So you apparently have a very low level of inventory in your HUD housing, obviously just that one.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Has that been going on for a long time or?
Yeah, so ever since the pandemic, they haven't really picked up any new properties. So the first couple months, we still had inventory because it was just selling off the stuff that they had already foreclosed on and already were in process. But around November, I want to say like October, November of last year, all of the properties that they had in inventory were gone and they didn't have any new properties to sell. So I would say probably 4 months, 3 or 4 months, I didn't have any HUD properties at all.
Yeah.
And then they've kind of started trickling in a little bit, like I'll get one here, one there. And those are all usually properties that are already vacant.
That probably has something to do with the moratorium that they had on.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty sure Fannie Mae's been the same because I've asked Melissa and they haven't been listing any of their properties either. So everything's just kind of on a stalemate, but we got a letter from this new company that's taking over for Sage, and I'll make sure that you guys get all that information once it's done and we know who our contacts are going to be. And if there's any changes to the way that they do these processes, I'll let you know. And I'm sure I'll put it in the MLS too, so that people know, like if they change the earnest deposit process or something. But once that all happens and things kind of settle down, I'm hoping that we'll start getting more properties.
Good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I think that moratorium is supposed to be expired the end of June. So if that's the case and they don't extend it again, then within probably 5 or 6 months, I would say, we probably start seeing some more properties. It'll take them a little bit of time to process and distribute and stuff like that, but we should start seeing more.
Good.
Thank you guys for attending.
Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully I taught you something about HUD.
Your
Yes, you
CE
did.
credits should show up in like 5 to 7 days. You'll get 2 hours of elective credit.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.